Hello and welcome back to Hyperplay RPG. We're very excited to bring you 5 amazing Game Boy Advance RPG ROM hacks. We've got some absolute belters here, so let's get cracking. Coming in at number 5 is Golden Sun Reloaded. This is the second oldest ROM hack on our list, being a good decade old now. Golden Sun Reloaded is still the same beautiful game that sounds great, still has a very slow start before blossoming into a beautiful adventure, but the crucial difference here is the combat. The game has been made much harder thanks to the ROM hack Golden Sun Reloaded. In fact, the difficulty in Golden Sun Reloaded is about the same as the vanilla game's hard mode, so it's for players who know the game already and would like another playthrough, but definitely want more of a challenge. The most crucial thing to know about Golden Sun Reloaded is that you can't simply spam summons. In Golden Sun you recruit Djinn, or Jinn, elemental entities who give a character stat boosts and can be summoned. They're tethered or leashed to a character but can be unleashed for an elemental special attack, the summon, so pretty much the same as a summon in Final Fantasy. The problem with the original Golden Sun on GBA is that this could be done repeatedly for major damage, but in the Reloaded hack there's no more summon spamming, so you can't just start off battles against the bosses and just spam them with a load of summons immediately and beat them all too easily. So essentially Golden Sun Reloaded is a balancing hack, a difficulty balancing hack that allows you to explore the depths of the combat in much more detail without simply resorting to the tried and tested, though slightly monotonous, tactic of simply spamming summons. Golden Sun Reloaded also features new and revamped classes and new Jinn progression mechanics. But just be aware that it is much harder than the original game and is only truly recommended for second or third time players. If all that sounds great, then you'll want to patch the original Golden Sun ROM, and when you do that and you fire up the game doesn't actually tell you whether you've patched the game correctly. There's no change to the title screen, which is unfortunate, so often players like us have no idea whether we've actually got the additional difficulty or not. The best way to find out, the simplest way, is in the prologue battles. If you find that the enemies, such as they are, like your little bat or vermin here, are doing damage to your characters equal to about a quarter of your maximum HP, then you'll know that you've patched your Golden Sun ROM correctly with the Reloaded hack. What this boils down to, if that cheeky little bat or pudgy little blue thing, vermin, do anything over 8 damage to Isaac or Garrett in these initial battles, then you'll know that you've patched it correctly. Now, whilst Golden Sun Reloaded is strongly recommended for experienced Golden Sun players, we should mention that the super bosses like Dullahan at the end are incredibly tough, and even the most battle-hardened Golden Sun warrior may want to give those a skip. But who knows, you might find the challenge all the more fun thanks to the increased difficulty of Golden Sun Reloaded. And we should also mention that there is also a Reloaded hack featuring similarly enhanced difficulty for Golden Sun 2. Hacker Golden Sun The Lost Age. So you're getting 2 ROM hacks for the price of one in this first entry, or number 5 on our list of amazing GBA ROM hacks. Time to move on to the next. Number 4 is Magical Vacation on Game Boy Advance. It was big news in our happy little community in 2016 when the hitherto Japanese exclusive RPG Magical Vacation was released fully fan translated. The game has a great pedigree with Brownie Brown developing the game, and they of course helped out with Mother 3, which incidentally does not make this list, but only because it's been so comprehensively covered elsewhere. Now, the first thing that leaps out at you with Magical Vacation is its absolute beauty. Magical Vacation's glorious graphics lay a very strong claim to being the best on the GBA, and that's saying something. The bright and breezy pastel shades at the start of the game soon give way to deep, rich hues as you progress from the real world into the light realm. Magical Vacation truly is a work of art in the visual sense. The whimsical characters and dialogue add no end of charm, but there is darkness here, missing family members, orphaned kids, and a bit of a mystery about the dangers lurking in Valencia Beach, the opening setting for the Magical Vacation. Magical Vacation does take a while to get going at the start. It's all a bit talky before you actually get to see any action, but one thing we would say is at the school at the start, and make sure not to miss this room like we did, replete with a horde of treasure chests and excellent items. Gonna make your life a whole lot easier. We enjoyed the translation of Magical Vacation for the most part. It was good to see one character described as an annoying geezer. One for all you Brit slang lovers out there. At other places there are a couple of localization missteps and text box issues, but on the whole this is an excellent and important fan translation into English. All the character names are bizarrely food and drink related, and food and drink is something that pops up quite a lot in the fan hacks that we're going to look at later, so keep an eye out for that. Once you do get through all the chat, you finally go on your Magical Vacation, you're greeted with one of the most beautiful sunsets in video game history. But don't let the cutesy stylings and all this beauty fool you. Magical Vacation features some of the deepest, most complex systems seen on the Game Boy Advance. In a slightly similar way to Golden Sun, there are a ton of elements to recruit, an equally large number of counter-elements to those elements, and this is called the Spirit Combo system. And on top of all that, there's also a rather obtuse sticker system, where stickers can be equipped to characters' gear to improve their resistance to certain attributes and also increase the growth of their own magic. Phew. Magical Vacation seems almost designed in mind with encouraging Japanese players to buy those huge 500-page Ultimania style game guides with table after table of elemental strengths, weaknesses and combinations, and to be honest, you need all the help you can get to fathom it. On the plus side, you can save any time through the menus, and there's also a fantastic in-game manual that you can get to via menu and then go to memo and then all files. And you'll find a truly comprehensive magic handbook as well as explanations about what certain items do in your inventory, which is just as well, because when you actually highlight the item in your inventory, it doesn't tell you what it does. You then have to go and dig around in the handbook. Now, we've waxed lyrical about the beauty and warned you about the complex labyrinthine Byzantine systems in play within Magical Vacation, but we haven't told you much about the story, and that's because we didn't want to spoil anything, but suffice it to say, think Harry Potter, but with the kind of whimsy and ethereal beauty that only Japanese RPG developers seem to be able to create. The music adds to this impression with its unique, pipey soundtrack, but it is a little bit beepy and comes through rather faint and hazy. Let's face it, you're on Magical Vacation for the graphics, and my goodness, they are truly something to behold. Something which can't truly be said for our third entry, which is Final Fantasy V Advanced Custom Classes. This is the oldest ROM hack on the list, a venerable 13 years old. And the key selling point to the Custom Classes hack of Final Fantasy V Advanced is that you get the 4 advanced classes much earlier: Gladiator and Necromancer, Oracle and Cannoneer. Now, Final Fantasy V Advance is no oil painting, but that doesn't make it any less worthy. In fact, it's higher up in this list for a reason. The Game Boy Advance vanilla version of Final Fantasy Advance is generally considered the best version of FF5, barring perhaps the Pixel remaster. The 4 advanced classes that you now get before leaving the first world are definitely worth having. The Gladiator can equip every weapon and deals maximum damage from the back row. The Oracle has the strongest magic in the game, once mastered. The Necromancer has some pretty cool dark arts, but is probably the weakest job of the 4 in the final reckoning. And the Cannoneer has the random chance of inflicting a status effect with every attack. Now, it should be noted that the Custom Classes mod of Final Fantasy V Advance does make an easy game even easier, but it's great for a breezy blast through. And bear in mind that this also has all the bells and whistles of the original Final Fantasy V Advance, including the bonus dungeon. Of course, Final Fantasy V in any incarnation is one of the most customizable JRPGs out there, but the Custom Classes hack takes this to new glorious levels, because the hack also frees you up to equip almost any command you see fit, so much so that it's quite easy to forget to include a command that actually does some damage, so you can get into a situation where you can't actually beat an enemy, so use your save states and try not to fall into that trap. make sure you assign at least one attack command. So in contrast to Golden Sun Reloaded earlier, the Final Fantasy V Advanced Custom Classes hack actually makes this game easier and is therefore well worth tracking down if you fancy taking on a Final Fantasy but are rather daunted by the challenge of doing so. So all in all, not the most extensive of the hacks featured on this list, but definitely a worthy one and worth checking out for beginners, or even veterans who want a bright and breezy playthrough, who want to mess around with the 4 advanced classes that much earlier. And much like young Bart's here, we've got to keep moving. So onto the heady heights of number 2 on our list, Fire Emblem Vision Quest. There's no shortage of Fire Emblem hacks available for the GBA, and Vision Quest is widely regarded as up there with the best of them. Vision Quest is an all-new Fire Emblem adventure, built using the Fire Emblem 8 engine. Vision Quest's story starts with a young farmer turned bandit Storch, as he helps his friends and family seek to survive an oppressive regime. Vision Quest features all the polish you expect to find from an official Fire Emblem game, and more. Many rate Vision Quest as better than the mainline Fire Emblem games. It's that good. There's a solid, if wordy, script here, with plenty of food and drink references, and the usual exceptional pixel work synonymous with the Fire Emblem games on GBA. Vision Quest is set on a new continent called Yaska, and sports a whopping 43 chapters with 62 characters, and it'll take you about 40 hours to beat all in. Vision Quest totes an impressive arsenal of unique weapons and also includes a lot of new skills, including fan favourite Shove. There's a big emphasis on choice-based gameplay in Vision Quest. Do you prioritise saving that house from being destroyed by brigands? Or should you go and recruit that enemy first and risk those houses being destroyed? And what about looting that treasure chest? And of course you do need to steal the gems that are scattered about. There's a lot to consider. One thing that we've found problematic in the Fire Emblem series over the years are reinforcements, pitching up enemy reinforcements. That is, just when you think that you've finally conquered the enemy and you've got over the biggest hurdles to victory, suddenly they bring in a massive new army, and often at the worst time and in the worst place, and you're swamped, and it scuppers everything. None of that here, thank goodness. Enemy reinforcements are telegraphed very well, and are never unfair. One aspect of Vision Quest that a lot of people weren't keen on though was the music, which is a mishmash of well-loved Fire Emblem tunes and also tunes lifted from a variety of other games like Zelda, Kid Icarus, Animal Crossing and Sonic Adventures 2. I have to say it didn't bother us that much, but there was a bit of a tonal mismatch between some serious maps and some light-hearted tunes. But overall that's a very minor grievance about what is one of the best games on GBA, romhack or not. And talking about best games on GBA, we have number 1 spot, Oriental Blue. The blue sea has turned red, and that's pretty much all we're going to say about the story. But suffice it to say, if you want a sprawling, epic, turn-based JRPG on the Game Boy Advance, then Oriental Blue is the game for you. As with Magical Vacation earlier, the first thing that strikes you about Oriental Blue is that it's another good looker, though the sprite work here is less cutesy. But we find it strikes the perfect balance between the best SNES pixel art of yore and the bigger character models synonymous with GBA RPGs. Crisp, detailed and colourful. If you love SNES JRPGs, you'll absolutely love the way Oriental Blue looks. Very text heavy and non-linear, you'll be relying upon NPCs for quest markers, so there's plenty of head-scratching where next moments. We would definitely suggest that you use a guide, and we'll put a couple of options at the end of this segment that you might want to look at to help you if you ever get stuck. You play as a boy or a girl, and as if to emphasise the non-linear aspect, the game plays out differently depending on your choice, as it does for all the choices you make. Not wishing to utilise an overused YouTube trope, but this game will surprise you. A party member might die if you ignore them in their time of need, and if that party member does die, then the game will go on. You might lose to a boss, but it's not a guaranteed game over necessarily, but potentially just another fork in the story. Oriental Blue comes from the Tengai Makyore series of games, which we're very fond of. We've previously reviewed and highly rated Tengai Makyore 0 in our other videos, including our 5 SNES amazing RPG ROM hacks. And you can tell that the same amount of love and detail and polish has been poured into Oriental Blue as it was into that game. Much like in Tengai Makyore 0, there are some in-game clock shenanigans where, for instance, if you speak to an NPC after a particular length of playing, then the story will alter in a different way than if you'd spoken to that NPC a little bit later in your playthrough. It all depends on the amount of time stated on your in-game clock. Oriental Blue is to all intents and purposes an open-world turn-based JRPG, so be prepared to juggle multiple plot threads and quest lines. In fact, so open-ended is Oriental Blue, with so much to do, an NPC even recommends you keep your own handwritten journal. But thankfully there's an in-game journal which is accessible in the menu, and that covers the main plot and quests, and in the end houses over more than 100 entries. That's how fast this game is. Don't feel like you have to complete it all though. You can go A to B to C, even though it's very hard to know where exactly B and C are. But we will include in the description a handy bullet point barebones walkthrough which says which location you need to go to next to progress the plot. Battles, as you can see, are Dragon Quest style first person affairs, but there are Breath of the Wild style breakable weapons. Thankfully you have an unbreakable steel sword on hand, and you will be able to see at a glance which weapons have a 0% break risk, and we would definitely recommend you go for those. You're rewarded with gemstones like this after battle, and gemstone fusing is a big part of battle preparation because stronger fused stones equal better buffs and skills. In keeping with its epic nature, Oriental Blue features huge sprawling cities, which brought to mind the expanse of Midgar in Final Fantasy VII. Fortunately there are helpful maps available from the get-go, and you also have a Heaven's Eye skill that lets you see immediately whether you've visited somewhere before. In less capable hands, such a sprawling epic would lead to a disjointed experience, but Oriental Blue does a fine job of drawing you into its world, as various twists and turns arise organically, and it keeps you truly invested in the excellent plot. This is world building at its best, and the Trails series can eat its heart out. Only joking, Trails fans, we love Trails too. Oriental Blue is packed with hundreds of weird and wonderful details woven into its world to create a wondrous JRPG tapestry. Every nook and cranny is begging to be explored, and it's always worthwhile. It may require devotion and a significant time commitment to progress the story and get the most out of its wonderful world, but if Oriental Blue clicks with you, it might just become your favourite ever RPG. It's that good. If you're going to play one GBA ROM hack from this list, we highly recommend it's Oriental Blue. And to facilitate you on your journey, here's a sneak peek at those barebones walkthroughs we were telling you about, which we'll put in the description below. They can both be found on the wonderful resource that is GameFAQs, and the first one is, as we said, an A to B to C, about 50 lines, just simply saying which locations you need to get to progress the game, which will be very useful as you get caught up in all the myriad plot devices and side quests. And here's another simple walkthrough that has a bit more detail, but necessarily a couple of minor spoilers. Either way, we urge you to take the plunge into Oriental Blue, and if a game's worth is to be judged by the number of knockoff Etsy carts you can get for it, then we're not alone in thinking that Oriental Blue is up there with the finest JRPGs of its generation, or any generation for that matter. So there you have it, 5 amazing GBA RPG ROM hacks. I think you'll agree. If you enjoyed this, please do check out the other entries in our series, the SNES RPG ROM hacks and also the PS1 RPG ROM hacks. We've also got our top 10 RPGs video, cunningly disguised as 15 great RPGs. All the links are in the description below for your viewing pleasure, and all that remains to say is please do like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And happy adventuring. Take care. All the best. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.